Sean Lennon here, host of the Fightlete Report, and right now we welcome women's Atomweight Maquina Asesina, Katie Perez to the Fightlete Report, and she recently defeated Brenda Enriquez by rear naked choke in the second round at Mountain Force MMA, and she competed HFC last February as well, and is now 2-1, and trains at a Team Phoenix Combat Fitness in Greensboro, North Carolina. And we welcome you to the show. How you doing, Katie? Hope everything's going well with you.
Thank you. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing well. Now talk about your recent victory over Brenda Enriquez. Obviously you got her by submission. It's fun, obviously whenever you have a chance to fight, especially during the pandemic. I know you had some fights that were supposed to happen dating back to like March, and they didn't. There's obvious reasons. There was restrictions and whatnot. So having a chance to compete, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean the main thing, I was so happy to finally be back in the cage. I think there's a couple of pictures where I'm just cracking up because I'm so delighted to finally be back in there doing what I love. Obviously it felt like way too long away from competing. It's something I want to be very, very highly active as physically possible. It's what I do, but it's also it's the main focus of my life. Like everything revolves around fighting, training, competing, making sure everything is where it needs to be for that. And anything else just feels like kind of a waste of time sometimes. So I definitely want to compete a lot, and I want to compete well. So I want to make sure I have the opportunity to improve my skills and all of that. Unfortunately, I'm in the right gym for me. So
how have your teammates contributed, and also your coaches, how you prepare for each fight?
I have one coach, Coach Graham Prue. He's the head coach of Team Phoenix at Combat Fitness here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he is kind of an all-in-one human being. Like he's got the Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, all of that knowledge of the sport, as well as having been a professional athlete himself. He's a fighter. On top of his background in strength and conditioning, he knows a lot about nutrition and helps us have our diets on point. Like everything at the gym is really streamlined because it goes through that one channel. It's not like I have 2 or 3 different coaches all arguing or trying to like steal time or something. It's like, nope. I have one voice in the corner, one voice in my head. Everything is very clean, and that helps a lot. And then the team is very like a family. We train together. We work really hard together. We break down and build each other back up together. Whenever someone is getting ready for a fight, everybody is getting ready for that fight. Unless you have something like on the schedule where peaking early would be a bad idea or something like that. Everybody trains up with that person, and then we kind of like level out, and our energy is all very much together. And it's a really good group of people. The gym the gym culture is very one of giving, of building up your teammates. And then because you've built them up and they're building up everyone else, it means everybody rises together, which of course is kind of our motto is Phoenix, rise together. So it's pretty cool.
Definitely. Makes sense. Talk about, basically your teammates so far in October. You guys went 3-1. And how motivating was it just to finally see fight schedule for everyone? I know you had your big fight with Brenda Enriquez, which you won by rear naked choke. So how great was that, just to have that on the board? I know you guys probably didn't stop training. You found a way to keep going, but getting that at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it feels like taking a deep breath again after kind of like short, shallow breathing for a really long time. It's like, oh, here we go. Finally, the sport's coming back to life. Our ability to go out and compete and to, test ourselves, train, like not just training, which, is all about like hitting those limits and so that you can exceed them every day, but competing, actually getting to fight, you get to really, I don't know, it's just, you soar so high, and it's the coolest thing. It's wonderful getting to go support my teammates. It's not just, MMA fights. We've had a bunch of, white belts compete for the first time in their grappling tournaments, like going to, we had a Naga recently, and it was really cool to go get to support them. Everyone at our gym whether you do MMA or just jiu-jitsu or just, Muay Thai, or you just compete for fitness or for your own personal like self-defense kind of ability, or you just, do it for fun. Everybody's on the same team. Everybody's in each other's corner, and it's really cool to see and be a part of. The restrictions, the limitations, obviously we couldn't have like a big crowd of people go to the Naga to watch because they were trying to keep numbers down to, satiate that requirement. Yeah, no, everybody's really supportive, and it's really awesome to finally get to see my teammates compete again too, it just makes me happy.
For sure. When you started in 2018, talk about how far you've come since then. I mean, in particular, your first couple amateur fights, you had big finishes in both of them, and how they built your confidence. You had an amateur loss, but then you came back and fired back and won like 3 or 4 in a row. So just talk about that, how far you've come.
Confidence is a weird thing for me because it's not something I had at all before competing, before training. Like being at the gym, training every day, bettering myself, being a part of other people's journey to do the same, and then just having really supportive teammates and coach who are willing to, especially my coach, who's willing to like sit down and talk with me about life, and kind of like, he's also sort of my therapist, like get me through, all the things that I'm going through so I can quiet the craziness and the voices in my head. So it's just time to do what we do. It's built my confidence in the sense that it's built my belief in myself. Like I'm willing to believe in myself in a way that, a few years ago me really wasn't. I wasn't in the best place in my life. Actually, I was in a pretty bad place when I started training. I think a lot of people are, whether they're fully aware of it or not, when you turn to MMA training, there's something amiss in your life that you're trying to defeat, or you're trying to overcome, whether it's, kind of personal demons, whether it's distress at work or at home or something else, or what have you. But for me, there were a lot of things not going right in my world. And a lot of it was just really unhealthy self-image. I hated myself. I didn't have any respect for myself. And it's, I was willing to put myself through the gauntlet of hard training, but it was almost more like, how far can I push myself? Because it's just for negative. Like it was never a positive thing until I started to see that self-discipline, which I prized very highly. It's like, even if I don't like myself, at least I'm very disciplined. Self-discipline is a form of self-love. If you're willing to stick to a routine, if you're willing to stick to a diet, if you're willing to train really hard, those are forms of self-care. It doesn't have to all be punitive. It doesn't have to be negative. I used to joke I would make myself run because I hated running. So it's like, I run because I hate myself. Yay. But now I train because I love myself. So I know that was kind of like a tangent to what you were saying, but training, fighting, competing. Fighting is just kind of a snapshot of where I'm at in life. So that first fight, you can see I'm tentative, but I'm also kind of like, who cares? Let's go for it.
Right.
Just like caution to the winds. I think like, there's a moment where I just kind of like pulled my rash guard down and just 1-2 straight forward. My second fight, a little bit more, I don't want to say refined, because that's not the best word to describe me. But certainly more technical, still very very focused, very like driven. I lost track on my third fight. I wasn't right in my head, and it's very apparent in my performance. Taking nothing away from my opponent, but I didn't really show up to that fight, and I hate that. That's what burns the most. If you fight someone and you bring your best and you lose, it's okay. They were just better than you that day. It's not a big deal. That's something you can work on and improve on. But if you don't show up, you never know. You'll never know. I will never know in my life if that night me could have won because I didn't show up. So that's frustrating. Came back from that kind of on a warpath, and then pretty much stayed on that like positive uphill. Like my aggression was there, my technicality was there, but when I turned pro, I again psyched myself out. I made the fight bigger than it was. I was like, oh, the bright lights and the crowds, and I had all this nonsense going on in my head. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that I lost, because I was able to take away from that a lot of really good lessons. First being, don't let the fight be bigger than it is. It was really valuable to me to have that experience so early, where, it was a really cool experience. I got to walk out of, oh gosh, it was some kind of helicopter. It was really cool, because we were on a military base, and we got to fight for the soldiers. So we were their entertainment for the evening, and that was a really cool opportunity, and like a nice give back to our troops. But it was also just this like really, really cool experience, and like the super bright lights, and we had the announcers, and like I let the show's trappings make me think that what happens in that cage is any different, and it's not. Once the door is locked, it's still just two people fighting each other who are approximately the same size, and there's a ref there to make sure that you follow the rules, and that's it. There's nothing crazy. It doesn't matter how big or small the stage is, the fight is a fight. And that was my big takeaway from that one. So I'm looking forward to the next opportunity I have under the brightest of lights to show that I did in fact learn that lesson.
I know you've been campaigning to be part of Invicta FC, the all-women's MMA promotion. And why do you feel now it's time to join Invicta FC?
Well, I mean, like I said, I did manage to learn that I had that opportunity to learn that lesson about not letting the fight be bigger than it is. And that's not to say like there are big shows and small shows and in between. That's not the point. For me, why is now the time? There's no time like now. If this experience with COVID has taught us anything, it's that everything can be taken away from us like that. We can all just lose the opportunity to train. We can lose the opportunities to compete. They could just say, hey, no more competitions anywhere. You're done. Everybody pack it up, go home. And there's not a lot we can do to stop that. And it's not specifically COVID, anything could happen. Like a meteorite could just, but there is no time except for now. So, I think Invicta is an amazing promotion. I think it's really cool, what they've done, that it's not just the premier women's fighting championship, but it's all women's is really cool. I've always loved watching, guys fight, and it's really nice to see that women are starting to come up more, and there are more and more fights available. I just love fights. I love watching fights. I love fighting. It's just fun. I would love the opportunity to do that. I would love the opportunity to perform on that stage. And be a part of that. I mean, that's history to me. That's pretty cool.
Do you have an opponent in particular that you feel you would do well against in Invicta FC?
Oh,
maybe they're not part of Invicta. Maybe they're outside of Invicta, but anyone that you feel like you'd match up well against?
Sure. Honestly, I think I would match up well against pretty much anyone. I think we'd put on a good show, a good fight. I think it'd be fun to watch, anybody, anyone who's willing to do this sport and is willing to train seriously, is willing to, if they're able to do the things that would, the prerequisites that would let Invicta consider them, I think we'd make a good fight. It's not like I have a specific call out like, oh yes, I have these 3 people I really, really want to fight. Ideally, in my world, whatever I'm ranked at, whatever number, I actually don't know off the top of my head. It's not something I really keep up with, but whatever I'm at, I want the girl right above me. And after I fight her, I want one right above her. And after her, I want the fight right above her. I want to fight everybody. I want there to be no questions when I have fought everyone where I stand. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. I want to fight everyone. Like no malice. I want to fight everybody.
And then you look at Invicta FC recently. We had the new Atomweight Champion that was crowned, Alesha Zappittella, Ashley Cummings. What do you think about that performance? I know Alesha seems pretty tough out there. She's been racking up a few those wins to get to that title shot.
Yeah, I mean, she wouldn't be in the sport at all if she weren't tough, and she wouldn't have stuck with it to get to the level she's at if she weren't, really good at what she does and really focused. I think fighting at the end of the day comes down to you. So you could put anybody in front of me, whether, she's the most experienced girl who's ever been, or it's her debut, or, what have you. And, it's up to me how good of a performance I put on. It's
Right.
not up to anyone else. If I show up and I bring my best, I actually bring my best, then it's gonna be a good fight to watch. It's gonna be fun. Anything less than that is a failure on my part, and that's something I have to own. That's something all of us have to own. In this sport, that there are no excuses. There are people who, famously train on injuries and show up for fights. Like, yeah, I didn't have the best camp, but it doesn't matter. Here we are. There's just no excuses at all. I would find it a huge honor and privilege to get to fight any of those fine women.
And then talk about like UFC. They don't have any of the women's atomweight division yet. Why do you feel that they'll include them maybe next year?
There's a lot of really strong atomweight competitors right now, and the division's only getting stronger. From what I've seen, there's more and more of us. We're a really fun division to watch. We're very fast, very durable. I think in general, like we just make for good fights. Like, who doesn't want to watch that? Yeah, we tend to be very technical because we're always the smallest at our gyms. So we've had to learn how to make up for that strength disparity with technique. So, atomweights are uniquely positioned in that way, I think, to be a really, really good addition to the UFC, if that is something that they're, going to add soon. I think they should. Talk
about also the opportunity to fight international fighters. When the world does open up and we can have, obviously competitors travel, is that something you'd like to do? Travel overseas, fight someone overseas, or even if they were to come over here?
Sure, I'd love that. My first fight was actually scheduled against a girl. I think she was from Ukraine. That fight ended up falling through, but I would love that. I open it all up. I want to fight everybody.
Definitely. Anywhere you like to travel in particular? To do so for a fight?
Traveling for a fight is weird because it's kind of like a mini vacation, but you're also very much there to work. So for most of it, before the fight, you're cutting weight, or you're just kind of like in the zone. You don't want to do anything. And then after the fight is after the fight. You usually just kind of want to go home. So it's not like I want to oh yeah, I really want to go to, I don't know, somewhere cool that I want to explore for a fight. Necessarily. If I did, I would plan for that time to be for after the fight, so that I could explore it in my own time. Because before a fight, I want nothing to do with anything that isn't like 1,000% getting ready. Put me in the coolest place ever, and I'd be like, nope, this is what we're doing. I've always been fascinated by the concept of travel. I've loved the idea of it. I think like everybody else from a small town in North Carolina, I probably planned a across Europe trip, and always wanted to go to all these places. But the thing is, it's also, we live in a world where you can learn pretty much anything you want to through the internet. And there's, plenty of books. There's also plenty of people, you might live across the street from someone who lives in that dream destination, and you can talk to them about what life is like there. And I think that's a really cool resource that kind of goes underutilized. There's cool people everywhere with cool life experiences, stories. You can travel without really going anywhere, and you can go places without experiencing. I think there's a rich culture everywhere that we could tap into, and I would enjoy traveling all kinds of different places. But right now I'm happy with anything because there's it's a little bit scarcer with the whole world being on lockdown.
That's true. And tell us, what can we expect in your next fight?
In my next fight, you can expect a war. That's all I can promise you. I can't tell you where it would be standing up on the ground. I train everything. I love training everything and expanding my game, deepening my skills in each aspect. Obviously the school I come from has a very strong, very, very strong jiu-jitsu. We're affiliated under Professor Dave Ginsburg of the Ginsburg Academy. So we're pretty appreciative of him and his mentorship through our coach Graham Prue, who's a black belt under him. We've our striking games are also very strong, and it's also Like all my teammates have unique games. You know, it's not like anyone's a cookie. We're not cookie cutters. You know, like we're not. Oh, okay, that's the jujitsu school, or oh, that's that like wrestling school, or oh, they're very elbow heavy, Muay Thai, whatever. Like everybody that I train with is super unique and is always presenting these new looks because they're also evolving their games in between fights. So, you know, I don't try to focus too much on like, these are the specific aspects of my performance, or, you know, I'm never going to finish a fight and like, oh, you know, I'm mad because I wanted to show off more of my striking, but, you know, we hit the ground early and here we are. I'm never going to be upset about that because, you know, every facet of MMA is so unique and it's such a good chance to show off so many skills. It's not like there are only 3 things you can do standing up. You know, there's like a million different types of strikes and ways to set them up and kind of traps you can lay and set and do all of that. You know, you might be really movement based. You might be really just like a heavy slugger. Like there's all these really cool things that people do. From me, I couldn't tell you, you know, I could give you like what I'm working on now, but it won't be the only thing I'm working on right now. And it's not the only thing I'm going to be working on. You know, things get added to that and they just branch out like this really cool tree all the time. So it's all I can promise you is a war.
Well, we're looking forward to it, Katie, and listen, we hope you do get a part of Invicta FC next year, but if not, you know, wherever fight, best of luck to you, and looking forward to you and the rest of your career. So
Thanks so much.
always would welcome you. I was just gonna say we can always welcome you back to the Invicta in HFC. I'm sure you definitely left a good mark there. So, but you know, whenever this stuff starts happening again, but yeah, we hopefully you can be a part of Invicta FC, and we'll try to put this interview out so you'll have that opportunity to make your case. And we appreciate you again being on the Fight Report. If there's anyone you'd like to thank, go ahead.
Oh gosh, thanks. The thanks are many and diverse. I'll try and keep it short. But you know, obviously my coach Graham. You know, I wouldn't be anywhere without him. You know, this is a kind of our journey together thing. Same thing for my teammates. You know, I could list them all, but it'll take forever. You know, everybody at Combat Fitness is a huge part of my success and my journey, and I appreciate them all. Not just on the mats and in the cage, but in life, and I appreciate them so immensely. You know, I've got kind of a mentor / person to admire in Sheena Starr. We're actually going to support her this upcoming weekend at BKFC. She's competing, so that'll be really cool to watch. She's fighting at 115, so you should tune in for that. Nice. And again, my thanks to Professor Dave Ginsburg, and you know, my family, my parents are super supportive in my corner. You know, we've kind of gone through this together where, you know, like at the beginning I was like, I don't know about this. It seems kind of like, what you doing? And you know, I couldn't like create more supportive parents. Like they have gone above and beyond in every aspect, and I appreciate that so much. So my family has really come through for me in that way, and shown a lot of love. That's really what it is. You know, like there's a lot of love in my life from my team, from my coach, from my family, from everybody, and I just have a lot of love to give back to them because we're in this together.
Definitely. Well, everybody check out Kate Perez in the future. Follow her on social media. We appreciate her being on the Fightlete Report as well. And, you know, best of luck to you. Hopefully we'll see you in your Invicta debut or in that cage very soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Anytime. Take care. Bye.
Bye.